الرحيم
الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, and welcome to Islamic Oasis Live. Dear brothers and sisters, we are in a very crucial times for this ummah, very crucial, very serious, and in some ways very strange times. In many ways, the history is repeating itself. We've always heard of what the Crusaders did in Bayt al-Maqdis in the past, the kind of stories that we hear in Ibn Kathir and others, that the blood was flowing up to the knees of the horses. And sometimes, you might have thought that those stories were a bit maybe over stretched in some ways. But subhanAllah, when we see what we are seeing today on the screens, the situation inside Gaza, every word that has been written by our ulama seems to is the truth, just displayed in live right in front of our eyes. Today, dear brothers and sisters, obviously I don't think there is one region in the Muslim world, maybe other than Saudi, who knows, where the Muslims are not burning, where the Muslims are not, the hearts are not burning, the eyes are not full of tears, the Muslims wanting to do everything they possibly can to support our brothers and sisters in Gaza. And of course, Pakistan is no other. Pakistan is probably one of those regions where people inside we hope and pray, are burning when they're seeing what they're seeing on the screens in Gaza. To discuss these issues, this political, the matters, we brought someone that has come on this show many a times, who's a historian, a professor, engineer, an activist, historian in many ways and details of the Islamic, the past. And we wanted to bring him on live from Pakistan to discuss what his observations are within Pakistan and within the world when we are seeing what we are seeing in Gaza. Dr. Akmal, welcome to Islamic Oasis Live.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, Dr. Akmal. Dr. Akmal, let me start with this question. Is the current world order that we are observing, chaos, genocide, ethnic cleansing, bloodletting, babies being killed, hospitals being attacked, schools being destroyed, masajid being destroyed, churches being destroyed, streets are being destroyed, people don't have enough, people literally are being, by design, dying of thirst, by design, dying of not having food. People are not allowed to send in aid. One bottle of water cannot go in. Is this the current world that is this sustainable?
Definitely not. But we have to be very, very cautious about this reality, that this is not the first time it's happening.
Mm.
I mean, if you look at the last maybe 100 years or so, the Muslim blood has been pretty much the most cheapest commodity that exists. Look, first of all, we saw colonialism, right? And again, pretty much at that time, we didn't have the cameras, we didn't have the microphones, we didn't have any of these recording mediums. And it was the same reality. Muslim blood was being spilled. And at least at that time, we knew who the oppressor was, right? We knew that because we do not have a state, because we do not have the means to struggle and the means to confront and the means to actually fight back, okay, that's understandable. France is the aggressor, Britain is the aggressor, whether it's the Dutch or the Portuguese or whosoever. I mean, they killed in millions, right? Millions,
Mm.
whether it was in Africa or in Asia. And then I just want to bring in this point. You know, we're dealing with a very, very shrewd enemy. Whenever it knows that its own setup or its own, like, the whole I would say, order that it has built is about to crumble, it moves on to a new setup or a new model. So from colonialism, it moved on to neo-colonialism, where it encaged and imprisoned the Muslims into nation states in multiple different small and big, and some of them just completely cartoonic states, right? And we saw again atrocity after atrocity. Let's start from Aljazair, 1960s. France killed up to 1 million people. A
Mm.
million people. They slaughtered. They actually put heads on spikes. Right now, the West is enraged about people being killed in retaliation most of the time. But oh, okay, what type of people are they that are beheading people? But no, this is something that was started by the French by cutting off heads and displaying them on spikes in Aljazair, right? Then we had, like, all of those type of atrocities. Then it came in. We already saw what happened in Balkans. Then we saw Iraq. Then we saw Afghanistan. We witnessed Burma. Now we're witnessing Palestine. And remember this issue: how the world order itself adapted itself, trying to placate the people, right? Trying to deceive the people. So whenever the pressure becomes too much, they start giving us pseudo solutions or pseudo revolutions, right? When the East, or I would say, like, communism was rising up, people were more or less at that time mesmerized or thought so that they are the saviors, even though when they went wherever they went, whether it was Afghanistan or the Central Asian states, they completely, I mean, the oppression is completely untold, right? We can see the Uyghur people, the Uyghur Muslims in China, right? This is what socialism does, that they cannot accept anything else but for them, for whatever corrupt way of life they have, and it has to be submitted to. And the US led world order allowed pseudo socialist revolutions to prop up. We had socialists like Saddam Hussein come up, like Muammar Gaddafi come up, like Bashar al-Assad's father Hafiz al-Assad come up. And these things themselves were presented as solutions and revolutions and freedoms and liberties, whereas they themselves became another form of oppression, right? We know about Saddam Hussein gassing his own people, but
Mm.
these were props that were built up by the West in order to control their own neo-colonialist model. And then the Arab Spring came up. And I want to move towards this point that we have been going through the circle or the cycle of oppression one after another, and every time we become, like, we realize who the oppressor is. We're given another lollipop. We're given another more or less, I would say, another circus to enjoy ourselves with. It's very important for us to understand what is our way out. It's very important for us to know that what will stop this cycle of violence. I mean, right now, okay, we're complaining about what Israel is doing. And what's strange is for this ummah, you know, with so much potential, with so much resources, with over 1 billion, souls to have, and still, like, a single Muslim blood could be shed. I mean, this is something that should bother every other Muslim, every Muslim. That how is it possible? That how is it possible that we are defenseless, even though we have 50 armies, from all different scales, from nuclear weapon armed states, from states that are manufacturing their own F-16s and tanks and missiles and everything. How is it possible that Muslims could be defenseless? And this is the question, and we have to look for a solution. And one of the good things, I don't know. I mean, this is where the responsibility of the aware people comes in, to make sure that this rage that exists in the Muslim Ummah right now, that you talked about so much, that okay, there is not a single place in the Muslim Ummah today that is not enraged, that is furious, that is okay, saying what's happening, why is it happening? But this rage needs to be formulated into a positive outcome. And that outcome is to have a parallel order, an order that would replace the colonial model that exists right now, the hegemonic order that exists right now. And the ground is prepared. Right now, even if you look at, we have countries from South America, we have countries from Africa, they're recalling their ambassadors from Israel.
Yeah, Colombia and
right? They're expelling Israeli ambassadors. They say, okay, what are you doing? And they're not ready to buy what London is saying or what Washington is saying. But what's important for us as the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as the people who have the last revelation, the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is called, the best Ummah, Khairul Ummah, Ummatul Wasata, Shuhada ala Nas, is for this Ummah to realize its own potential, that they have been created only to lead the people, the world, to rescue the world, to take it forward. I mean, these are more or less, I would say, for us to realize the real corruption and the real oppression. And we have been going through this cycle over for the last maybe 200 years, again and again and again. After almost every 10, 20 years, we start, like, distrusting, and we start realizing, oh, we're trapped, and we are being oppressed, and we're being killed and murdered. But then we start, like, looking for solutions, like the pseudo national freedoms or national state freedoms or national freedoms and socialism, and then democracy and Arab Spring and these things. Right? Just last 10 years, we saw Libya, we saw Yemen, we saw Sham, we saw Somalia. I mean, how many times are we going to keep on repeating the cycle? It's been almost now 200 years. I mean, and the cycle almost repeats itself every 20 years. We need to realize that there's only one way forward, and that is Islam and nothing else. Nothing else is going to rescue us. And actually, we are obligated to rescue the rest of the humanity. It's not just about us.
So, but Sheikh,
your point is very quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's very important to realize that, okay, the Muslim street, the Muslims in general, they realize the corruption and the hollowness of the Western ideas and values and civilization. They're disenfranchised. I mean, they're completely disenchanted. I mean, they understand that the Wizard of Oz had exposed naked right now, right? To the streets of the people, the streets of the Muslim nations, the Muslim people. They know, okay, this is the oppressor.
But Sheikh, let me. Is it what is it? I mean, look, we can't even say it's lack of political awareness. I don't think there is anyone on the streets on the Muslim street that doesn't recognize what's going on. I mean, you look at. I mean, I've never seen the way the hukam, the rulers are being cursed by almost any average person on the street is cursing them. I mean, you look at the Arabic media, it's beyond belief. I've never seen the Arab curse Malik Salman the way they're cursing, I've never seen, and this even from the scholars that you never expected, they're cursing him. And then of course we see that in Egypt, we are seeing that in Tunis, we're seeing that in across the Muslim world. But Sheikh, like you said, but it never, you're right, we have seen this before. I mean, this is literally 16th or the 17th massacre being committed by Israel. This is not a first one.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe this level of bloodletting, no, I think it was probably Sabra Shatila was probably the same, if not, and then Dar Yassin was probably the same. It's just they didn't have the right, we didn't have the media there. But Sheikh, what is it? Is that what are we lacking that we don't ever come to a conclusion with this this order in the world today?
See, I mean, the success of the hegemonic West was that they created a class from ourselves, from amongst the Ummah, that worship the West, literally worships the West. They cannot think outside of whatever the West has to offer. I mean, when we say West, it's basically London, Paris, Washington, and nothing more than that. And they are blind followers of the values and the civilization that the West offers. And the street, the Muslim street, it's at a complete different level, right? The Muslims, their emotions, the Muslims, their values, the Muslims, their thoughts. I mean, it beats with Al-Quds. Al-Quds is not for sale. I mean, they're not ready to go ahead and say that, okay, the third mosque or the place of Isra and Miraj and the place of Anbiya and the place where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam led a prayer of all of the Anbiya and the place of Shuhada. And I mean, it's so much integrated into the whole Muslim psyche, Al-Quds. It's not for sale. But look at Muslim rulers. They're a completely different class, separate from the Muslim street. So those people that have a disease in their minds, the disease where they think so somehow the West is superior, we are inferior, we're always trying to catch up, we have to become like them, we have to carry their values, act like their values, think like them, and everything
but
is
look,
only
Sheikh,
about the West.
Look, the Arab Spring took place. The Arab Spring did take place. I mean, there was also so much chaos in Pakistan in the name of Imran Khan. It's not that the Muslims are not trying, but is it the street also believes in the same solutions that the leaders believe in? I mean, look, at the end of the day, I can't even say that, you see what I'm saying? That we always, when you talk to the people at the end of the day, look how many people died trying to get Imran Khan in power. How many people are still rotting in jails trying to get Imran Khan in power, right? Imran Khan is out, but those people are not out, right?
Imran Khan is in there as well. So.
Oh, he's still in there. Okay, I guess lack of awareness there, but okay, he's in there. And then you have the rest of when you look at Egypt and other places, Sheikh, I guess what I'm asking is that what is it that the Muslim street lacks? What we already understand what the leadership.
Yeah. See, that's where the whole issue comes in, and that's what I want to emphasize about, that the Muslims emotionally, they are inseparable from Islam. Look, Pakistan was created under the slogan of, it's in Urdu, Pakistan ka matlab kya, la ilaha illallah. What is the meaning of Pakistan? It is la ilaha illallah. And it mobilized the whole Muslim, I would say, community from, Khyber all the way down to Bengal. All of the Muslims, whether Northern India, wherever they existed, they were so much enthralled with this slogan that and they sacrificed and their honors and their wealth and everything to create a country that thought so that would be a castle of Islam, that would be a laboratory of Islam where they can implement and show to the whole world what Islam means. Now, this was the sloganeering. But the problem was they didn't know what it means to be to implement Islam at the level of a state, right? This is what was missing. We were so much. I mean, if you look at even Afghan jihad, right? If you look at, I mean, they fought one enemy after the other enemy for almost 40 years. But after those 40 years, the idea about ruling with Islam is still, you would see vagueness, and you would see, like, a little bit of confusion over there, that what does it mean to rule by Islam? What does it mean that, okay, we have a state now within the whole, like, the international community that aspires and claims that we are Muslim? Look at Iran. They have a claim that we have Islam, but when it comes down to the international order, when it comes down to the whole, the global or geopolitical setup, what is the role of a Muslim state in that whole chessboard? It's only another nation state. It's only another nation state with another state religion, maybe like Italy has a state religion, or maybe Spain has a state religion. So we have these other nation states like Iran, maybe, or like Saudi, or Pakistan, or Afghanistan, that have a nation or a state religion. But within the geopolitical setup, within the international order, is just another nation state under the dominion of the Western hegemony, and nothing more than that. And that's why it's very important. We always have offered blood and sweat, right? Whether it was the struggle against colonialism, and then came in the neo-colonialism, and then we again offered our blood and sweat in order to rid ourselves from colonialism and move towards socialism. And then, as you mentioned about Arab Spring and mentioning about Imran Khan and these things, but every time, what has mobilized and brought the people to stand up for their rights against the hegemons, against the US, against the West? Like in Pakistan, I mean, when you talk about Imran Khan, his whole agenda was being anti-US. His slogan was, "Kya hum ghulam hain? Are we slaves?" Absolutely not. That, okay, we're not supposed to follow every dictate of US. We should have some freedom to maneuver. We should be able to pick and choose, and something like that. And you can say the educated class in Pakistan itself rallied behind Imran Khan. Oh yeah, this is the person who's going to rescue us or liberate us from this hegemonic control. But okay, what's going to be the outcome? We have to understand, Khilafah, Islam, the political solution, the political setup, the political system that Islam brought was the Khilafah state. It ruled from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam up till 1924, when Mustafa Kamal, the traitor, demolished Khilafah. For almost 1300 years, it was there in order to bring people from all different ethnicities, from all different backgrounds. It was something, whenever any community in the world was oppressed, it took refuge with the Khilafah. Look at the Jews. Whenever any place in the world itself they were oppressed, they came to the Khilafah, to such a state that even the Muslim cities, some of the Muslim cities became majority Jewish cities. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that? The whole, Spanish Inquisition thing. When, okay, Muslims were being persecuted, the Jews were being persecuted too. And they were carried and ferried in Muslim ships to Muslim cities. They were rescued and given refuge. But this is the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, that they are thankless people. They deny their own history. We always provided them with refuge. We always protected them against any other oppressor. And today, look at how they're paying back. But this is what's important. We as Muslims, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored us by being within the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have a responsibility. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us a political setup, a political paradigm, a political platform, in order to lead the whole humanity, in order something to dominate every other system. Right? We're supposed to dominate every other system, not be part of a system.
Sheikh, you know, there is obviously there's very interesting moves happening in that region where you are. I mean, I was just listening to one of the, at least according to what I was listening to, it said it's somebody from the from Taliban or from in Afghanistan, and the person speaking was saying that we would like to, we want to request the Arab rulers to move out the way, and that allow us to cross your borders and go inside. Even if you don't want to, then we will go inside and we will do this and we will do that. I mean, are these people that naive, Sheikh? I mean, that is it naivety or is it a game? They also know very well that I mean, or do they think we are? Do they think that we will be fooled the way they were fooled in Qatar by their rhetoric?
They were not fooled. I mean, they sold their victory.
I mean, fine, you're giving them a little bit more, I guess.
I mean, see, this is the issue. The sincere people, the people that actually sacrificed 40 years, multiple generations, as
Yes,
I said, fighting one enemy, USSR, and then the other enemy, where 23 European nations invaded this land, right? 20 years here, they sacrificed generations. They sacrificed their wedding processions and funerals and hospitals and schools and whole cities and villages were wiped out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the people who resisted, they were very, very sincere. They were only motivated by one ideology, one emotion, and that was Islam. And now you need to placate that, right? You need to keep them somehow satisfied that, what we struggled for, what we fought for, what we sacrificed for, the Islam itself. Okay, we are supposed to be defenders of Islam. We're supposed to be defenders of Muslims. And right now there are Muslims that are directly calling us. There are sisters that were calling on to Taliban. Okay, what's wrong with you?
I saw that. Then I wanted to ask you that question. Literally, the person was taking calls, and the sister called, and he said, "We don't expect anybody else but you." I mean, have they become this shameless?
That was a price. That was a price. They were, at least the leadership was willing to pay, and they paid that price, right? They thought, okay, we can get a country, that we can get a state, and they promised that we would only remain introverts. We would only concern ourselves within the internal matters of Afghanistan, and we will forget about everything that is outside the borders of Afghanistan. But this is not Islam. Islam cannot exist inside of any other confines. Islam came to rule. Islam came to dominate. It cannot exist within any other system. That's what Iran faces that challenge as well, because they claim that, okay, they have the leadership of Islam, and their own people, they think of this, they demand of this, that we need to do something. And that's where they have their own you can say formulas or lollipop. They have Houthi rebels firing a couple of cruise missiles and thinks, okay, we're trying to do something. They have Hezbollah coming up giving long speeches.
And he gave everybody a lollipop and told them go home.
Yes, exactly. So this is how Iran is trying to maneuver itself. We supported Hamas. What do you mean by that? We have Hezbollah. Okay, what are you going to do? We have Yemen. Look at what they have done. So even Afghanistan itself, they know what they can do. But right now they're placating. They're trying to deceive their own people. Look at what Erdogan did.
Yeah.
He understands there's 1.5 million people in front of him chanting, let the armies go, let the armies go, let the armies go, right? And he has to come up with a statement that kind of gives an impression that he's going to do something. So he reminds the people about the Crusades. He reminds the people, he reminds the Jewish entity about, oh, some night somebody might knock on your door.
Yeah.
Why some night?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't 9,000 souls enough?
Yeah.
I mean, out of those
No,
9,000,
no,
4,000
Sheikh.
children.
I'm asked. That's what I wanted to ask. I think if I guess we have seen this type of killing in the past. We have but the thing is the kind of direct, by design, by intent, uh, targeting of babies and children. I mean, we have never seen this unless it has happened, and we just don't have the recordings of these type of things. But I mean, what does I guess I'm trying to figure out the heart of these rulers, Sheikh Ania, where, or even the heart of the people in place of power, those who can do something. I mean, look, we can't even get a bottle of water inside. Children are literally are standing with pots of water, trying to get, I mean, you see the media. I mean, they're trying to tell openly, they're screaming. And I heard one message, a little girl was saying, I want to die because I want to go to Jannah, because I heard there is always food in Jannah. I mean, for Allah's sake, do these people not, what's going on, Sheikh?
This is where, it reminds me of Malcolm X, how he talks about the house Negro and the field Negro. So we have these slaves, literally slaves, these rulers that we call on the Muslim Ummah itself. These are the custodians of the Western order. That's why Sheikh Taqiyuddin Nabhani, rahimullah, he called Israel the shadow of Muslim rulers. These Muslim rulers, they're the custodian of the Western values within the Muslim world, whether it's secularism, liberalism, or democracy, or whatever you want to call them, capitalism, and all of these rotten systems. These are the custodians of Western corrupt civilization within the Muslim world. And these rulers themselves, they first of all, they're stricken with this disease. It's more or less, I can call it intellectual age.
يعني في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا شيخي. Subhanallah, man.
Yes, their hearts are diseased. We have to realize that. We cannot accept any khair for them. There's only one solution for them to be uprooted and to bring in people that would only fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and nobody else. Okay, we see them going to Medina, we see them going to Makkah, we see them praying, whether it's Sisi or whether it is some general from Pakistan or whether it is Erdogan or whosoever. These people themselves, they try to trick the people that they're religious people. But in essence, the reality is they fear only Washington or London or Paris. They fear about their wealth being actually stored over there, or they fear that how they would be projected and looked upon. Yeah, this is what actually governs them or controls them, because they're mesmerized. They think, so, okay, the West has progressed, the West has actually moved on to a much higher level, and we're trying to catch up, and until we do not become like the West, we will not move forward.
But Sheikh, look, I mean, again, I've been listening to a lot of journalists, a lot of people with very, very different, as much as I can try to get out of even Western media, and I mean, they are saying that, look, the current system is not, it cannot work like this. I mean, even within the Biden administration here, you have you've had, I think, the head of one of the people he resigned. You have the head of human rights resigned. I mean, you have somebody at the United Nations. I'm sure you've heard of the he came out and he just resigned, and he said these institutions have failed us, and it's failed. Yani, this is a genocide going on, and then you're telling me that these elite within our countries are still can't see the things the way they are.
I mean,
And how many
they are the
babies does it
product of this
take?
system.
How many babies does it take, Sheikh?
Man, look at even I would say, if we're talking about the politicians, we have ulama right now. We have ulama. I mean, they're supposed to be the inheritors of Anbiya. They're supposed to be the people that protect the soul. They are the one that protect, I would say, again, the Muslim aspirations and the Muslim, the emotions and everything. And they're the one instilling fear. Oh, we lost 3 wars against Israel. What else can we do? I mean, they're the one that are supposed to bring us up. They're the one that are supposed to rid us of our fear, and they're the one giving us fear. They're talking about hikmah. They're talking about tahammul. They're talking about, what is this? That's the reality. The West has been able to create a class from ourselves. They're our militaries, they're political leaders, they're our religious leaders that make sure that, okay, we do not challenge the Western hegemony, and we keep within a certain confine. Oh, first of all, we have to build ourselves, we have to be careful, we have to be smart, and we have to be with wisdom move forward, right? I mean, these are the ideas given to justify slavery, right? To
Genocide at this
justify
point.
slaughter and genocide. Yes, exactly. And it is coming. I mean, okay, we're talking about rulers. We have ulama talking about this issue. They're talking about, okay, what can we do? What do you mean? What can we do? Right? They're peddling exactly what the West wants, to keep the ummah, to keep the Muslims afraid, to keep the Muslims, in one way or the other down. That, okay, no, you shouldn't get up, because if you get up, you will be beaten down again. So why get up?
Sheikh,
But
there is
the
a
real issue is, again, we have to recognize, again, as I said, I mean, this chameleon, or how every time the Western hegemonic order is challenged, it comes up with a new disguise.
Mm,
Right?
mm.
From colonialism, it moved on to neo-colonialism, and from neo-colonialism, it moved on to some kind of a socialist type of states, and then from socialist, it went on to the Arab Spring type of thing, and from Arab Spring, right now, the Muslim street is enraged.
Mm.
Look, I mean, Biden's statement was so beautiful when he said that, okay, if Israel did not exist, he would have created Israel.
Yeah, we would make it exist. Yeah.
And that statement was not from the perspective of, okay, they wanted to do some favor to the Jews. It was to keep Muslims divided, to keep Muslims, like, entrenched, and for them to be always embroiled in this type of conflict. That, okay, after one situation after the other, they keep on just chasing all these problems, right? So this is in the heart of the Muslims, in the heart of the Muslim land itself, and the most crucial and focal position, Al-Quds. They have a non-Muslim state. This is the outpost of Western civilization, and it's there to keep the Muslims divided. It's there to control the Muslim aspirations in the region itself, so that they are always consumed with something that is local and do not think about the mission that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. So we have to understand this design behind this whole Zionist issue. It's not about them having a state, it's about controlling the Muslims. And this is the project of controlling the Muslims. So this is what Biden was saying, that if it did not exist, we would have created one. Because this is what the British wanted, right? The British originally wanted an outpost here. They were looking at other people to populate this place. They were thinking about tribes in Africa, from Zulu or Angola, to be brought in here and create some kind of a state that would exist of foreign people, so that they can control the other Muslims in this place. And Balfour met Dr. Herzl at that time and ended up making it a Zionist state. But the whole idea was that for the British Empire, this was the nodal position. This was the central position. Whoever was sitting here could control all different dimensions, or all different, like, regions of the British Empire. It can break the British Empire into 3 different regions just by controlling, Al-Quds, or this land itself. And after the Second World War, when America took over from Britain as a superpower, as the leading power in the world, it recognized this reality. Whoever controls this place, this piece of land, throughout human history, has controlled the world.
Mm.
Now, this is
Sheikh,
how the Muslims have to look at it. And there is no other, I mean, definitely the atrocities, the genocide that is being committed right now, being silent upon this is completely unimaginable. I mean, I cannot see, like you said, how can a heart, how can a heart bear so much oppression? And especially, you have under your hand, right? You have your hand
see
on the
that's the
button that
question. That,
controls
that's the question I wanted to
nuclear
ask,
weapons
Sheikh.
and guns.
Why is it? Why is there so much fear in institutions that can make the difference, Sheikh? Why? Why? Is it that they don't trust? They are worried that if another, because the West has done a very good job of scaring Muslims and scaring institutions uh, from allowing sincere Muslims to take over, because they have given them this picture of ISIS, they've given them the picture of this, that, and the other in Iraq, in Syria, and in all of these different places, and also wherever the supposed religious parties have taken over. I mean, look at Iran, and look at, meaning the idea of religious parties controlling that, they they promised so much and they under delivered. you know there's so many parties within Pakistan and others. Is that the fear within the institutions that can give power to these sincere people, but they're worried that it will become just another theological state? What is the concern? I guess what I'm asking is that do they think that there's a lack of intelligence within these Islamic movements or parties? Do you think that they lack political awareness? They're not educated enough. They're not. Uh, they don't have what it takes to run a state. What is your analysis of what they think when they look at transfer of power from the cartoons that we have?
Actually, the reality is that even without claiming, these rulers themselves, without claiming, they carry and believe the values that are coming from the Western civilization. Like, one of them is realism, right? That I need to understand or make a balance between the gain and loss, what I would gain and what would I lose, and within the confines of nation states, within the confines of even beyond the nation. It sometimes comes back down to an individual group. Look at Hezbollah. What is primary for them? The hukum of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or their own group interest? Right? For them,
I mean, it's very
their
clear
group
what he said
interest.
Friday. It's group interest.
Yes, it is about their group interest. It's not about what is the hukum of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا لَكُمْ لَا تُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالْمُسْتَضَعْفِينَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ وَالنِّسَاءِ وَالْوِلْدَانِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is directly telling us, oh, what is wrong with you? Why are you not fighting for the men, women, and children that have been oppressed, right? What is wrong with Hezbollah? Why are they not fighting? What is wrong with Iran or Turkey or Egypt or Pakistan? What is wrong with them? Oh no, they have been taught, they have been trained that we have to prioritize our national interest first. We need to make sure that we do not take a step that would actually, end up for Taqi Usmani in Pakistan. He's a very renowned and very well respected alim in Pakistan, a scholar. And probably, he has no parallel, beyond par. So he gave a fatwa about this issue, and he said exactly, okay, jihad is farz. But he said with hikmah, we need to make sure that we do not end up losing more than what we can gain. Look at the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He sent an ambassador to the Bani Ghassan, to the nowadays, like, Bilad al-Sham again. And he was killed. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent an army to avenge that one ambassador. 3,000 people against 100,000 strong army. And they understood, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he appointed 3 leaders. He said, okay, if this one is Shaheed, then this one. And if this one is Shaheed, then this one. And if this one is Shaheed, then the Muslims would select a leader from themselves. Right? It was Zaid bin Harisa, and it was Jafar raziyallahu ta'ala anhu, and it was Abdullah bin Rawaha raziyallahu ta'ala anhu, and then Khalid bin Walid, Saifullah was selected. But the issue, 3,000 against 100,000 people. Why? For the sacred blood of one single Muslim. Where is the hikmah? Where is the rationalization? Where is the realism? Oh, I need to make sure that we don't end up in somewhere that would be more harsh, or that would be more damaging, or we would end up losing more. Look at Abu Bakr raziyallahu ta'ala. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away and he became the Khalifa, he had at that time at least 3-4 different type of challenges. There were false prophets that were ready and preparing an army and wanted to attack Medina. He had people, Muslims, that refused the centrality of Khilafah. He had Muslims that had refused to give zakat to the central government or the central authority. And then at the same time, he had an army prepared that was supposed to attack Rome, that was supposed to attack the Roman Empire. And he took on all 3 enemies, he took on all 3 missions simultaneously. This is how Muslims think. We're to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are to obey the Sharia that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought to us. But today we have been, we sometimes, not understanding. We have become secular. We have become materialistic, right? We prioritize benefit. We prioritize gains. And rather than thinking about the Jannah, thinking about the reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we think about the reward in this world. Hubbud dunya and karahat al-maut has become our identity. A wahan has entered our hearts, right? Not for the Muslim street, not for the Muslim youth, not for the Muslims in general, but our leaders, the political leaders, the religious leaders, the military leaders. Look at what Sisi said.
Yeah.
Right? He said we have to be rational.
Yeah. Don't
He said,
allow
this is
your
our
emotions
quality.
to come in. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. What does it mean to be rational? I mean, when my house is threatened, when my family is threatened, what would be rational?
But Sheikh, do you think Israel? I want to know your understanding of what Netanyahu is doing. I mean, politically, this man is gone, the shaitan, because there is nothing left for him. So is he? And if I'm looking from pure political perspective here, he's not gaining anything in Gaza. I mean, so far there is zero gain as far as something that he can show to his people. I mean, he can't claim victory. It's not like he has gotten rid of Hamas. He wanted to push the people out of Gaza into Sinai, telling them, move south, move south, move south. The Muslims in Gaza have decided to, patiently bear whatever it is that is going to come, for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and to make sure that they hold on to that land because it belongs to Allah. So what happens now, Sheikh? What is the solution here? Of course, as other than removal of an occupation, what is Israel thinking, and what is its future, Sheikh? After this type of bloodletting, can there be a future for Israel?
See, Netanyahu himself had said that we are the outpost of the Western civilization. We are a barrier between. I think so in United Nations or maybe in US when once he
No,
came there
he gave
and
a
made
clip.
it.
Yeah, there's a clip of him explaining that
Yeah,
what they want, and if they
yeah,
establish their caliphate, this is what they will do. Look,
yeah,
yes,
exactly,
yes, yes.
exactly. He knows it very well. He knows it that okay, the Jewish people have been more or less duped
Mm,
into protecting the Western civilization and becoming an outpost and maybe becoming the first line of, he's calling it first line of defense. But
wow.
in other words, he realizes that, okay, the whole Jewish people have been more or less deceived to be to face the onslaught of the Muslims. And I want to say what Netanyahu is doing is not different from what the West has done. Didn't we see? I mean, right now, look at it. America sent military officers that were experienced in urban warfare, fighting in Fallujah, right?
Mm,
Fighting in Mosul, fighting in Iraqi cities, fighting in Afghan cities. They are the ones that became experts in trying to quell the public dissent or the public opposition or public resistance against occupation.
mm.
What was, didn't America use phosphorus bombs in Fallujah?
Oh, of
Didn't they
course.
use
Oh, yeah,
depleted
Fallujah. They
uranium?
used it
Didn't they
in
use
Raqqa. They
collective
used it in
punishment?
Mosul. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
right? I mean, why are we trying to look at Netanyahu in isolation? He learned from the best, right? It was Britain that used chemical gases first upon civilian populations in Iraq and in the tribal areas of the Pashtun tribal areas in Pakistan after the First World War.
Mm,
They're the one, whether it was the British or the French or the Americans, this is how they have been actually quelling any type of resistance that comes against their hegemonic control, against colonialism. This is what they have been doing again and again and again. And right now, one of the things that has happened is actually more or less the media becoming more and more widespread. Every person has a media in their hand. They have a camera and microphone in their hand. Everything is being recorded. This was not something that was available before. And those atrocities are now coming out. Right? You talked about Netanyahu. What about Sabra and Shatila?
oh, of course. Yani Sharon and
Right?
Ehud Barak and Ben Gurion. I mean, these are
Every one
criminals.
of
There's
them,
no.
every one
Yeah,
of
yeah,
them
of course.
committed such atrocities.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Even their founding
No,
Ben
but
Gurion or
I guess my
whatsoever.
question though is, Sheikh, what is going to be the deal now? I mean, are you? I mean, I guess a bit of your analysis here. Are you thinking that they're going to? I don't think the Muslims there in the area will move to Sinai, but uh, uh, what happens now, Sheikh? Yani, the complete genocide. I mean, Gaza has to be removed. What? I mean, is it going to be just one Israel? Is that what they're thinking?
They can think and plan and everything, and definitely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala plans.
طبعا.
And see, when I'm talking about the Muslim street, or the Muslim populations in general, right? This does not exclude the Muslims within these armies.
Mm,
Their hearts are bleeding as well. They're enraged as well. Okay, they are being given different types of excuses why they cannot do anything. Like in Pakistan, within the social media and within certain circles themselves, they have started circulating a post that, what can Pakistan army do? We do not have, a ground line of communication, right? Same thing with Egypt themselves, because under the Camp David agreement, the Sinai Peninsula has to remain demilitarized, right? Oh, what can we do? We cannot move beyond this. If we try to move beyond this, blah, 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 this would happen and that would happen. Or the economic issue. Oh, we are economically weak. If we try to do something, our economy would be damaged or we would be suffering. The Muslims, what economy cost? Are you talking about the price of petroleum or gasoline, or maybe wheat, or maybe some other commodity? What's going to happen economically?
Let me
What would be
read.
difficult? But what I want to say is this rage that exists upon the Muslim street exists within the Muslim armies as well. They're angry with their leaderships. They're angry with their governments. They're okay. Why are we allowing this genocide to happen? Aren't we the sons of Salahuddin? Aren't we the sons of Qutuz and Bebris? Aren't we the inheritors of the Sahaba like Umar Razillah Talanhu and Khalid bin Walid Razillah Talanhu and Abu Ubaidah? So why are we not moving? What's stopping us? What's keeping us back? They're questioning. They're asking. And that's where you see Erdogan and all of these leaders, they're coming forward and making statements. Look at the statements that are coming from Pakistan. Just yesterday, the Pakistani ambassador in UN, he said enough is enough to Israel. But these are words. The words, their words are becoming harsher and harsher because they can feel the pain and the anger that exists within the street and within their own armies. They're afraid that if somehow we're not able to dilute or
They may not be able to
somehow
control
neutralize this anger, the whole setup would be wrapped up.
Sheikh, I'm just going to read to you. There was a very good post someone put up there saying that, look, and this is, I'm just going to, the question, this is the way they put it. And this is very smart how, I mean, you can tell that intellectuals, thinkers are putting out things. And it said, why can't ballistic missiles not be aimed at Tel Aviv to provide cover to ground troops? Then he said, why can't SSD troops not be sent to Egypt to enter Gaza from the Rafah border crossing? Why can't regular troops not be sent to Jordan to enter the West Bank via the Al-Karama bridge? Why can't ISI not be sent to Syria to guide the resistance there? Why can't the Pakistan Navy not establish supply lines via the port of Beirut in Lebanon? Why can't Pakistan Air Force not use the Incirlik air base in Turkey to neutralize the enemy air force? So there are obviously people of very high political understanding are out there who are studying this situation and are in many ways ready to even advise. I mean, for instance, the reason I'm reading that to you is because, they maybe certain institutions might think that, these people who want, whatever change of this kind, bring back Sharia, things like this, these guys are maybe just some people who are, read few pages of Quran and they think they can run Pakistan. But this type of statement in such detail and such a clear understanding of what can be done with such a strategic mindset, they must be looking at these type of people that exist within their own leadership, Sheikh. Yani, just to just add another question to that, if you can, are they not sick of being led by such type of people? You have in your streets, an average person can give such an amazing advice and with such clear strategic thinking, and then you have people who are being bought and sold on the street of London.
That is the exact choice that rests with, I would say again, within the Muslim states, or you want countries, or whatever we can call them, especially the people that are angered and I would say worried about what's happening with the Ummah. And again, Gaza today, this is not the first time it's happening. Since 2007, this is the 7th, 8th time, right? It's happening. Almost every 2 years, or after a year or so. I mean, every day, the settlers, they come in toting rifles and end up shooting a child or a woman or an elderly daily or somebody.
I mean,
on daily basis.
It's a pure occupation, Sheikh. Pure,
yes,
subhanAllah.
Yes. This is what exactly, I mean, look, people have forgotten probably what was it like under the apartheid government in South Africa, right? They remember Nelson Mandela, but Nelson Mandela and coming into power in 1990s or something, but just up till I don't remember exactly if it was 94, 95 when the apartheid government was ended in South Africa. 94, 95. Then this is Western civilization. This is how they rule, up through apartheid and through racist type of governmental structures. They have not been able to solve racism from their own societies. They have been struggling with it for almost like now, what, 200-300 years, and they cannot solve it. So we have to realize and recognize what you have mentioned is very, very accurate. There are brave people. There are clear-headed people. There are people who understand exactly what it means to rule by Islam, how to solve economic problems, how to solve, like, industrial setups that would make a state to become a leading power in the world itself, right? And only by Islam, only by Qala Allahi wa Qala Rasul and nothing else. And these are the people that deserve leadership. These are the people that are honest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to His Messenger and to the Ummah itself. And they do not fear anybody else. They do not fear, the losses in this world, because what it is important is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, this is what's important. What we have become accustomed to. This is something very, very strange. In the last maybe 200 years or so, wherever the Muslim rulers existed, whether it was the Indian subcontinent or Egypt or other places, these so-called leaders or rulers, they one way or the other compromise, surrender, the Muslim interest in exchange for just escaping or maybe saving their own government, and think so that, okay, they have done something based upon wisdom.
Mir Jafar comes to mind, and others,
Yeah, it's not only Mir Jafar. I mean, the Mughal ruler in 1765, he made an agreement with the East India Company, the colonialist power here in India, that they would allow the East India Company to collect taxes and to actually organize the administration of all of the land under the Mughal ruler for 120 million rupees annually.
Oof. Ya salam.
They fully surrendered. They fully surrendered everything that a government can do, right? Defend people. Okay, now the East India Company was responsible to defend the Mughal Sultan or the Mughal government. So a government is supposed to, apply taxes upon the people so that they can protect the interests of the people. No, now it was the East India Company that would apply taxes and collect taxes. It is the government that solves people's problems, administration. So administration was with the East India Company as well. So now East India Company can collect maybe 1 billion rupees in taxes, but would only pay 120 million to the Mughal Sultan and keep the rest with themselves. They can cut the hands of Muslim workers so that they can make sure the British cloth is sold within India, and the Muslim high quality or the Indian high quality products are not produced, and they do not compete with the European products. So this is what has become, like the Nizam of Hyderabad, right? Every other time we our government. Look at Egypt, the Khadif over there. Every time they surrender something, whether it is the Suez Canal or whatsoever, we saved the government. This is how we have been thinking for last maybe 150 years or 200 years. We always end up saving something at the expense of, by selling something that is of interest to the Muslim Ummah. Right now, Muhammad bin Salman, he's trying to sell Al-Quds. And for them, everything is sellable. As long as you can, one way or the other, safeguard maybe your position, maybe your rank, maybe your tenure from 3 years to 6 years, from 5 years to 10 years, at the expense of what? What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has called sacred? Against the ayat, we're selling the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're selling the hadith of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These rulers, they're selling them. Think, how can Muhammad bin Salman even think Al-Quds is for sale? All right? This is the reality. This is how these leaders are thinking. That's why I'm saying their hearts are diseased. Their minds are diseased. They have a defeatist mentality. They have fear of this world in their hearts. They cannot be cured. There is no cure for them. Their only cure is maybe we can.
يعني because
I
the
had a
ayah
very
is
good
clear
friend.
فزادهم الله مرضا يعني it's going to be
Yes,
even
yes,
زياد
yes,
يعني
yes.
فزادهم الله مرضا
It's
ولهم
going to
عذاب
bring.
أليم بما كانوا يكسبون. ها سبحان الله شيخي يعني this is but but it's what at least gives us hope and as Muslims of course ولا تهنوا ولا تحزنوا وأنتم الأعلون إن كنتم صادقين. This is
Inshallah.
very clear about يعني the hope that we have of course in Allah Azza wa Jal, and that we cannot lose that hope, and when we are reading the kind of things that we are reading, and that there are sons and daughters of this ummah who the kind of things that they're writing, the kind of things that are the kind of stands that they are taking, it's beyond belief, Sheikh. Yani, I guess a last word here, Sheikh. When you see Gaza and the Muslims of Gaza, the stands that the bravery and the courage and the patience of people of Gaza, what should we learn from this, Sheikh?
I mean, first thing is, I would like to say that the victims of Pharaoh became the Pharaoh. Pharaoh in Quran is mentioned for making the decision or actually implementing a solution where he killed the male children of Bani Israel and kept the female ones alive. This was what Pharaoh did. And at that time, the Muslims of Bani Israel were the victims. And today, the same victims have become the Pharaoh that are butchering children, that are slaughtering children. And comparably, at that Surah Qasas is so beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this, that this is what Pharaoh was doing, and then mentions in the next ayah that we have decided to make the weak inherit the earth, to replace the tyrants. And I hope, inshallah ta'ala, this is our prayer and the aspiration that what's happening in Gaza today is the last time it is happening. And
Ya Rab.
inshallah ta'ala,
Allahumma ameen.
the patience of the Muslims, the children, subhanallah, I mean, it's not only about the intellectual few that are clear in their understanding about the qada, about the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about being patient with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is our sisters, it is our children. They're coming up with so much clarity, about these issues themselves. They are in pain. They have lost so much, and still their faces, they're pure with patience. They're pure for waiting for nasr from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah. And that's where the pain, I would say, and the anger that exists, the anguish that exists within the hearts of the Muslims that are around them all over the Muslim world, from Morocco to all the way down to Indonesia, that okay, why cannot they be rescued? Why they cannot be rescued? People who are calling in the name of this deen to come and rescue us, that have been actually left unprotected, unhelped. These are the people, subhanallah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, this is what makes us fear that they are the successful ones. And for us not being able to help them, who's going to rescue us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I mean, what would we have to justify our behavior in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And when Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you're a Muslim is a brother to a Muslim, he does not oppress them and does not leave them unprotected, right? It would be Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam being a wakil on the side of these people in Gaza. That didn't I tell you to protect my ummah? No, what will be our answer on the day of judgment? I mean, this is where it also comes very, very important. Very important. You know, if there's a person sick in my family, and if my brother or my cousin, if I know somebody who's a doctor, I'm going to pick up the phone and call him. I'm going to tell him that, okay, my brother, my sister, my mother, my father, he's in pain, he's suffering, he's sick. What can you do? How can you help? Right? I'm going to call my doctor friend. I'm going to ask him to come over. If he is not responding, if he's not able to, I'm going to give him, like, everything. I'm going to tell him, okay, why did you become a doctor? I'm going to tell him that, okay, where's your humanity? I'm going to tell him that, okay, what's wrong with you? You know, you're part of the family, man. You're supposed to take care of us. Why cannot you just spare a few minutes, come and take care of this matter, this business, right? Because we expect a doctor to provide us with medical professional type of advice or treatment or help, right? This is the reality right now. We have professional soldiers. We have professional institutions that have been trained to go to war, to fight, to secure, to defend, right? We have to call upon these professionals from within our families, from within our friends, from within the people that we know, that what's wrong with you? Aren't you the people with tanks? Aren't you with the people that have jets? Aren't you the people that have, like, fighter aircraft and fighter, sea ships and destroyers and frigates and whatever? I mean, Egypt has 2 helicopter carriers. You have missile systems. So what's wrong with you? You guys are the one that swore to fight, right? You guys are the one that claim that you want either shahadat or to be a ghazi. So what's wrong with you? Why are you guys not moving? And inshallah, once they start moving, always there are the irregulars. We would happily be the irregulars of this professional army. We would be in front of them, inshallah ta'ala.
Yeah.
Right? So, but this is right now upon us. It's our families, it's our friends, it's our relatives, it's our neighbors, that we have to call upon. Remind them of their duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remind them that, okay, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is the one that's going to ask, didn't I tell you that Muslim is a brother to a Muslim? That he does not oppress them and he does not surrender them to an oppressor. Right? So this is what we have to remind them. We have to remind them that what we have to fear is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how He's going to hold us accountable. And not what can America do or Biden do or like, it's interesting. Right now, the British Prime Minister is a Hindu person, but and we're supposed to fear them?
Oh yeah, of course. Hasbunallah ni'mal wakil, Sheikh. Hasbunallah ni'mal wakil. But it's always, it's always an honor to have you, Sheikh. We always get uplifted and we see the realities sometimes that we even forget. These the words that came out of your mouth are needed. Words of leadership, words of hope, words of wisdom that this ummah is not alone and should not be left alone. And Allah Azza wa Jal is watching, and Allah Azza wa Jal will ask on the Day of Judgment. So Jazakallah khair for your time, Shaykh. I know it's different. You are all the way in Pakistan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you, preserve you, and continue to use you for His deen. Jazakallah khair. And for the rest of you, brothers and sisters, remember the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Azza wa Jal said, Wallahu ghalibun ala amrih. Wallahu ghalibun ala amrih. Walakinna aksar al-nasi la ya'lamun. And so, at the end of the day, al-amr qabla wa ba'du. At the end, whatever it is, Allah has decided it is before and then after. And remember, all it takes is kun fayakun. As Allah Azza wa Jalla says, Badi'u samawati wal ard, wa idha qada amran fa innama yaqulu lahu kun fayakun. That's all it really takes, brothers and sisters. So our work, our sincerity, and we need to continue doing what we have to do. We create awareness, push this ummah to stand up with your brothers and sisters and make sure that the Muslims in Gaza realize they're not alone. And by Allah, you're not alone. Allah is with you. And that's all you need. جزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
لا، لن يطول الظلام، ديننا لن يضام، نحن جيل همام، نحن فينا عمر. لا لا لا، لن يطول الظلام، ديننا لن يضام، نحن جيل همام، نحن فينا عمر.
صبح بدا نور ظهر، نجم وشمس وقمر، ألقى على الدنيا الدرر. هذا عمر، هذا عمر، كل البرايا تنتظر أيامه البيض الغرر، كي تستفيد من العبر. هذا عمر، هذا عمر.
لا، لن تدوم الجراح، بل سيأتي الصباح، نحن أهل الكفاح، نحن فينا عمر. لا لا، لن تدوم الجراح، بل سيأتي الصباح، نحن أهل الكفاح، نحن فينا عمر.